welcome back to the Right Nurse. In this video, I'll be going over in detail my study tips for nursing school and how I study in nursing school to obtain A's on my tests and things. So if you want to learn my tips and how I studied, and I give very good detail on how I studied, please continue watching. Alright guys, so I'm going to try to make this not super long, try to make it as short as possible and straight to the point. So I'm just going to start off, and also if I keep looking down, I got a paper because I kind of go, it's an order on how I study. So I'm going to try to keep it in order and not ramble too much. But I'm just going to give you like a little background to like how my classes were set up. So our tests were set up every other week. So every other week we had a test. The test would normally consist of 4 to 5 chapters at a time. So, you know, it wasn't too hard, but it was hard. So our teachers will give us outlines. They were kind of like fill-in outlines. So before class, they will post the outline, you know, the outline of the chapter and what they wanted us to know. So I have my iPad here because at first I started off studying, like I would print out the slides and the PowerPoints and take, you know, notes on the PowerPoint. That's too much paper and too much ink, and it was just making my binder fat. So now I am a electronic study person, whatever. Like I do everything electronic. So now I brought an iPad. What I would do is download the outline, save it as a PDF, and then I will upload it to my iPad. Now the app that I use is Notability. I love that app. It lets you write on, you know, the outline, fill it in, highlight. If you guys want details on how I use that, that could be another video. But what I take notes on is Notability for the iPad. Now what I would do is I would start off, I would go to class. Another app that I use is Otter. Now Otter, you're able to record your lectures. Now that's what I did. I recorded every lecture. And I say that because you don't catch everything, like you don't. In class, depending on your mood, if you're tired, some nights I will work like 3 to 11:30, so I wasn't going to bed till like 12:30 and then class at 8:30. So sometimes you're just tired. So what I would recommend is recording the lecture, because you can always go back and see like if you missed something, if you need more examples or a better understanding, you can always go back to the recording that you did. But also make sure you ask your instructors if it's okay for you to record them, because sometimes it's not. So once I would record the lecture, I would try my hardest the same day to study. Now, I would normally study 4 to 5 days a week for 4 hours. I do not go longer than 4 hours, okay? 4 hours is my cutoff. Now, it's not 4 hours straight because I just wouldn't be able to retain it. But anything longer than 4 hours is just, it's too much. So, say if we learn on Monday fluid and electrolytes, I would come home after class, whether I'll go to the gym, I would come home, eat lunch. I wouldn't go straight into studying. I would take like an hour or so before I start studying, just to decompress and, you know, rest my mind a little bit from all the information I got earlier. Then I would study. So I would study for 4 hours. I break it up into 2 hours. So for example, for the first 2 hours, what I like to do is pull up my outline on my laptop, the one that I filled out. I will pull it up, and then I would also pull up Quizlet, and I will have note cards. So with Quizlet, you get a lot of vocabulary words. So I mainly use Quizlet for vocab words and just simple things that is easy to create my own questions for. So I wouldn't go through the entire outline and make up my own questions, but as I went through the outline, if it was a vocabulary word, I would put it in Quizlet. If it was some other information, I would write it on my note card. So I would go through the outline in entirety and either put stuff on Quizlet or put stuff on note cards. But I wouldn't do like double the work. So I wouldn't make a say a vocabulary word on Quizlet and then make a note card for it, because that's just too much. So what I would do is just go through my outline. Like I said, create the vocabulary words or whatever that I thought I can create my own questions for. I would make my own Quizlet, and then I would put everything else in note cards. So that's one way that I would first do the first 2 hours of my study habits. And then I would take a break. And I normally take maybe like a 45-minute break 1 to eat dinner at that time. So I would take a break. During that break, I won't do anything related to school. Like, I'll watch my ratchet shows, Love and Hip Hop, or How to Get Away with Murder. Like, I would take my time and watch a whole show, eat dinner, just get my mind off of nursing. And then once I get back, you know, from after watching my show, I get back to studying the last 2 hours. And what I would do is, now it's going to sound crazy, okay? It is. But I literally talk to myself for a good 2 hours. And what I mean by that is, I like to study by myself in my room, and I have to be moving. So I would literally walk back and forth, memorizing, asking myself questions, like going through each of my note cards. So, fluid and electrolytes. So, say fluid volume deficit, I would look at that note card. I would ask myself, what are the signs and symptoms of fluid volume deficit? Okay, so what are the treatments? How is it treated? But then the crazy part is, I would literally ask myself the question and answer the question as well. It sounds kind of crazy, but it works, okay? And I say talk to yourself because if you can teach yourself or a friend, whoever, you know the information. Because in nursing school, you just can't memorize stuff. Like, memorization is important, but you have to actually understand, you know, the content and be able to explain it and know how to apply it to, you know, real life situations. So I say, if you're able to teach it to yourself or your imaginary audience, whoever, if you're able to explain it, understand it, then that's safe to say you know the information. So for that, all this stuff, you guys, by the way, is for one chapter. So once I went through all of my note cards, and normally that takes about 2 hours, I will go through all of my note cards. After that, that's it, I'm done. The other app that I would use once I'm done going through all my note cards is that I would use Picmonic. So like I said, fluid and electrolytes. Picmonic is great because I'm also a visual learner as well. So they have like a lot of little cartoon characters and little things to make it easy for you to remember, you know, what fluid volume deficit looks like, or fluid volume access. So, you know, that I loved, and it also helped me to remember the information. So this is what I would do, like maybe like 4 to 5 times, you know, a week. I would try to do it on the same day that I learn the information, but that's not always possible, especially if you work and you have kids. That's just not always possible. So that's what I would do in regards to my study habit for that day. Now, test week is, you know, a whole different ball game. So our test was actually every other Thursday. So I would study from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Now, test week is really important because what I would say is, by the time test week comes, you should know all of the information. Like, you should know it. Because each day, the week before, you were studying at least 4 hours a day. And also, it's really important when you're, like, not studying, to still be studying, if that makes sense. So if you're at the nail salon getting your pedicure, pull up a Picmonic on your cell phone and just do a few Picmonics. Or even pull up your Quizlet and go through a few vocabulary words. Like, nursing wasn't my entire life, but it was a big majority of it. So if I was in line at the grocery store and it was a long line, I would pull up Picmonic, or I'll pull up my Quizlet. Now, I wasn't always carrying a stack of note cards with me, but for the time, you know, where I'm able to have some free time, or I'm just bored, I would actually look over my my notes on Quizlet and my Picmonics. Like, I would do that. You need to keep it fresh in your mind, and that helps. So that's something I would do. And I will also pull up the outline too, because since I didn't always have my note cards with me, the Notability app I have on my phone and my iPad, so you are able to pull it up on each, and I would just scroll through just to breeze. Now it's test week. The test is on Thursday, so Monday I would do the same thing. I would study for 4 hours, but this time I'm not reteaching myself the information. So as I stated earlier, it was about 4 chapters a test. So on Monday I would review 2 chapters. So for the first 2 hours, I would, 1 hour, the first hour, I would go through all of my note cards for chapter 1. The second hour, I would go through all of my note cards for chapter 2. Okay, and then after that, of course, I'll take my little 45-minute break. And then I would do a big review for the last 2 hours. So at this point, I would just breeze through the whole stack of note cards, ask myself questions, walk in circles honestly, going back and forth. I will go through all of my Quizlets, make sure I know all the vocabulary words, and then I will also at the end, like the last 20 minutes, I would do the Picmonics, because on Quizlet and Picmonic you can test yourself. So that's another thing that I really love about those apps. Like Quizlet, you can do matching, you can also do fill-in. It will have you do fill-in for the test questions, true or false for the test questions. So that's what I would do for the last 2 hours. And then after that, 4 hours is it, I'm done. So then Tuesday will come, same thing. I would do the same thing all over again. Now Wednesday is a little different because that's the day before the test, so that's the most important. So what I would do on Wednesday is I would go through the first 2 hours, go through all 4 chapters. Now I know that seems like a lot, especially when you got like 4 stacks of note cards like this. But like I said, at this point you know the information, so you're not looking at the note card trying to figure out why this is this or what's the signs and symptoms. You should know it already, okay? You should already know it. So you're just breezing through the note cards. In the first 2 hours, I would go through all 4 chapters, boom. And then also at that point, since you are, you know the information, I'll also go through the Quizlets. I wouldn't necessarily do the Picmonics, but I would go through the Quizlets just because that's where my vocabulary words are. So they're just as important too as well. Now in the last 2 hours, which I think honestly this is the most important out of like everything I did, is that I would do practice questions. And yes, I would do practice questions for 2 hours. So my school, with my tuition and everything, we got the ATI books. So based on the chapters, I would put little stickies on the top of each page, based on the topics we were being tested on for that test. So I will go through all of my ATI books and I will do the practice questions. I will go onto the ATI website and do practice questions. And then I also have like the fundamentals book, which was nothing but practice questions. So I say do the practice questions because that's like the most important. That helps you know if you're ready for the test. Do you know how to apply the information that you learned? Do you know how to apply it? Do you know how to analyze? Like, it helps you practice. Like the practice questions really help you and prepare you for the test. I remember the first test that I had in nursing school. I didn't do any practice questions, by the way. I barely passed it. I did like my old study habits, like, oh, I got this. And when those nursing questions pretty much slapped the hell out of me, like literally, because the way they ask you questions, I swear like all of the answers are right. And then there's like 2 really good answers, but then you have to choose the best answer. So practice questions are very important. And also in the ATI books and the fundamentals book, I can actually show you guys what the books look like, but in those books, they give you reasoning on why the answer is right and reasoning on why the other answers are wrong. So you don't just want to do practice questions and then go through, once you review the answers, like, oh, I got this right, oh, that one was wrong, and then move on. You want to actually look at the question, see why you got it wrong, and why this other answer is correct. That's really important. And then after I do the practice questions for the last 2 hours, that's it. I'm done. I don't look at any more of my notes until test day. I might review some things, but other than that, I cut it off. I'm done. Because at this point, you literally haven't been preparing for like a week and a half. So you know the information, you did your practice questions, you're prepared for the test. So that's how I study for nursing school. I said a mouthful, I know, but you guys, it's really easy. Just stick to it. And I guarantee you're going to get a better grade than what you got previously. You are. But if you have any questions or any comments you want to make, please leave them in the comment section below. And also let me know how you guys studied in nursing school. What are some of the things that worked for you? Again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.